I wore an orange sweater for you one time.
I was shocked when he come in an orange bow tie, I really was. I figured he's gonna come in in blue today.
That's the important thing. So what's your prediction, Daniel?
You ever watch Rocky? Rocky 3 to be exact? Mr. T?
The first match or the second?
I don't have a good feeling about it.
Really?
It all depends. It all depends. I mean, Tennessee was 11 for 69
Hey, buddy. Well,
Kentucky shot 50%
you are.
for 3 points.
In both games, they shot 50%.
It's like they get hot against us.
If we could get Williams to learn to jump,
And dunk the ball instead of laying it up, missing 5 again.
I bet he missed 8 shots this far to go.
Oh, I know. I was texting my buddy the other day. I said, you can't hit layups.
Hit a 3, but can't hit a layup, I don't understand. 7 foot tall. Why's that close?
I just ducked it every time.
Wouldn't you know?
I don't know all day. It just seems like.
All I had to do is take one more step, and he'd be out of pocket guy. Yeah.
It seemed like they were traveling, having So what do you do here tonight? Just check out
Oh, really? Oh, you got some, oh, really?
Yeah. That's why I
So your daughter plays softball,
That's not something you don't tell me.
He'll be here, Wednesday meeting in April.
Yeah, thank you for your response.
So hopefully,
She liked it.
Yeah, it's the first year. She's always playing out of first year.
Somebody else on.
So she's always played baseball. Or do they have a softball?
But she actually started this year.
the goal is
We
by the end of this
did all the
year.
competitive cheer.
Oh, I got you.
And then she said.
I don't think they
that
ever
wasn't
touched
for her,
it.
so she was-
No, I don't think so.
Because they not down there at all.
Yeah, you mean this? Oh, shoot, don't do it.
Now, I haven't driven in a while, all over the Fayette County. Yeah.
You don't know how? Get this button right here. And then you click it. There you go, click that, push that. There you go. Okay. Thank you.
You doing all right? Go, Mr. Vaughn. How are you?
Here's all my favorite guys all back here. That right there has my heart.
Yeah.
We're in trouble now.
Yeah, you all already got somebody, you know, but.
You let him renew your tag, we'll call you. I'll send him.
But his daughter-in-law one day, you know.
Still time.
But you ought to. You ought to have anything better than
Well, that's going on.
I'm gonna stand my lane. That's an expensive note taker.
We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order, and Madam Clerk will call the roll.
Magistrates Miller.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Blanton.
Here.
Constantopoulos.
Present.
Pasley.
Here.
And Craig Rapp is out.
And I'd like to welcome Pastor Nathan Platt from Central Baptist Church. Will lead us in the invocation, and please remain standing for the pledge.
Let us pray. Most holy, righteous, heavenly Father, we humble our hearts to approach you this day in the knowledge that we stand and breathe and live by your grace, by your sovereignty, and by your mercy. We thank you for your law that has established the world and our lives, gives order to our government, to our community. We pray that you'd help us to be a people that are subject to that law, your divine law, and your truth as set forth in your word. Thank you for this community, for the privilege of living here, benefiting from all that you have provided from those who have gone before us and those who govern over us this day. Thank you for appointing these individuals by your intention and by your ordination, for no one sits in authority apart from your governance and your choice. We pray that you would give wisdom and insight to those who sit upon this council, these magistrates, and to Judge Yates, that you would cause them to have knowledge of the fact that they are here by your appointment and your choosing to accomplish your will for the sake of your glory and the good of this community. Give them humility and insight, compassion and justice. Cause them to serve for the greater good of all that live in this county and in this city. We thank you especially for the grace that you have extended to all those who would come to you in faith through your Son, the Lord Jesus. And pray that all that transpires in this room today would be evidence of his kingdom which is coming. Evidence of his will that will be done. And we pray that you would give us all a sense of humility and anticipation to look to the day when he, who is the judge of the living and the dead, will come to establish righteousness and equity and peace for all who trust in him. We look to that day and we pray in his name. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is going to be approval of the minutes, March 12, 2025.
Motion approved. Second.
A motion is second, any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is 6 is a approval of the budget transfer. There's 2 of them. We'll do number, we have an A and a B, we'll do them both together. If you want to, or we can separate. So the first one we'll do is a
Motion approved.
second. Motion is second, any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And that's the courthouse materials, right?
Yes.
Right. Check.
We just did A.
Yes.
Yeah. Second. Motion to approve B.
Starting to switch now.
We just did A, which was the 2-page one. Started off with courthouse materials and supplies.
Second one's $10,000.
I had it reversed.
Do a motion, was there a second?
No.
Do a second?
You're doing this.
Do a second, any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is approval of the cash transfers.
Motion approved. Second.
A motion is second, any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
For A or for B or for both?
That's, just should be one.
There's 2. A and
See the B on the back there, we can,
Motion to approve B.
let a motion.
Second.
Second approve A and B. So those, any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries on A and B. Okay. Next item is approval of the bills list.
Motion to approve the bills.
Got a motion, is there a second?
Second.
The motion is second, any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. pre-authorized bills for March the 12th, March the 14th, and March the 18th.
There is none.
No, supplement.
Thank you.
Next item is public comments. And no one signed up. And next item is department head comments, and no one signed up. Item 13A is a review and approval of the dual attorney representation.
Motion to table indefinitely.
We have a motion to table it for a second.
I'll second for discussion.
We have a second for discussion. Any comments?
The reason I'm tabling is just that deadline's coming past for any action to remove ourselves and enter into that agreement, so there's no point taking it up.
So, any further discussion?
There's a date on it, I must have missed that date.
25th, I think.
The date of what Magistrate?
Well, you said the date had come past, I must have missed that date someplace.
There was an email that was sent out, the county attorney had sent out to advise us, it was the opioid.
Oh,
And they were wanting everybody to withdraw, and I made the recommendation, do we need to have a special call meeting, because the deadline was prior to this meeting, and
So it was in your email, what you're saying? Okay.
So what was the reason it wasn't addressed? What was the reason it wasn't addressed before it passed? Deadline.
the initial reason was they were wanting all the smaller counties to get out of that lawsuit. And basically, because something with the judge, it's over my legal head, but, I mean, if you get out of it, you may not get anything out of it. If you stay in it, you may not get anything. You're better off staying in. It's kind of my personal opinion.
I just want the constituents to hear why we're doing this.
Any further discussion? So the motion before you is to table 13A indefinitely. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next was going to be a discussion on fire department personnel. Chief, would you like to address that, or you want me to, or?
You can address it, and I'll answer any questions that anyone may have, sir.
So basically, the situation is we need to hire more fire department employees. We're paying a lot of money in unscheduled overtime because it takes extra people. Now, the big question is really the money to pay for the employees. If we don't hire them soon enough, then I forgot the number, but we're paying a large amount of money every year in unscheduled overtime. And it takes about 13 weeks to get these guys trained enough to be on the truck. So, we're in a little bit of a money situation, so we wanted to just bring this out to everybody's attention.
What's your recommendation?
Well, at the moment, we have to wait and see where the money is.
Have you run an analysis? Is it cheaper to hire than the amount of unscheduled overtime we're paying?
I believe it would be cheaper to hire the employees than to pay the unscheduled overtime. I don't remember the exact number, but for the year, it's pretty high.
I think so far, we've paid $155,000.
Right.
And
How much?
$155,000.
Overtime, unscheduled overtime.
Related to that, yes.
But keep in mind, when you hire, you're still gonna have unscheduled overtime.
Yeah.
So you're gonna increase the cost for a few weeks.
So it's kind of like we're in a situation that we really can't hardly afford not to hire the people.
One thing I'd like to just comment in on the fire committee, and I hope you can hear me, is the guys that are the younger guys that aren't paid as much, they have jobs when they're not working. So the guys that are picking up the overtime are the highest paying guys. So that's why it's really expensive. So we've got to try to get some of the younger guys that that are coming on to fill those spots, so we don't pay it to those that are higher priced hourly wages. The problem that we're running into is the guys are going through training, and shortly thereafter, they're being scabbed off to Lexington and all the other places for higher pay. So we keep going back around the mountain again to have to hire more guys and take them through the amount of money it costs to train them, which costs, it's kind of a catch-22 as we're doing. It's just reality.
How many, chief?
I have 4 that I can hire now. That'll leave us 1 short. But we have the potential to lose 4 to 5 more employees this year due to retirement.
Yeah, and that's the other thing we talked about at that committee meeting, Judge, the number of people that have either officially announced that they were going to retire or eligible. I think we talked about it quite likely. So the idea that if you hire 4 more, that you're going to have a department with 4 more employees than you have today at the end of this year is probably not going to be the case. Probably be right back to square one, or maybe even fewer than what we have today. So I'd be in favor, if he's got 4 that qualified and he wants to hire them on, bring them on, we've got to start preparing for the waiver retirements. So,
The good thing is the waiver retirements are going to be the higher paid guys anyway, so it's going to save us in the long run.
I have those names with me, sir. I just, if we
Yeah,
want.
I have, we actually had 4 names that we were going to put on the agenda, next agenda to hire. I believe 1 is a lateral.
1 is a lateral, sir, yes, sir. So we won't have any cost to training that member, but the other 3 we will have to train.
But the problem we were running into was, with the cost of everything, then we've got all the equipment, turnout gear, et cetera. I guess, what happens if we, the last thing we want to try to do is make these gentlemen an offer, and then we get into a situation that there's just not enough money in the bank to pay them. Now what? And I think that was the discussion we were having this week. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention so everybody's it's in the forefront, so.
Chief, could you mention also what it costs to do the training?
Yes, sir. It's about $16,000 per individual when we train. We've had 3 recruit classes this year alone at about 5 members per recruit class, so you can see where the cost is coming in.
Well, and I think along the same line here, I guess it'd be good, as good a time as any, we need to address the cascade system. We've got a piece of equipment that fills the air tanks that I believe it's on its last leg. We need to replace it.
If I may, sir, we got a little bit of good news on that today. It is functioning currently. We probably should, we have a little bit of time that we can budget for that.
Did you get the test results back on that area?
They did come back today and they were within acceptable limits.
Because we can't, I guess so, if it goes down, then how do we fill the air tanks?
Will the city not fill them for us?
They can't, sir. They have a different type of
They switch to a
system.
different thing?
Yes, sir.
So if the machine goes down completely, which it was, my understanding was down,
It was. We just got that news today, sir.
how do we fill the tanks?
There's got to be somewhere we can take them in an emergency situation to get them filled.
I think we can take them to other counties.
We can, yes, sir. We can take them to other
We got
counties.
time to plan for that.
Yes, sir. Now, unless we have another catastrophic failure, as we did this last time, it cost us $1,600 to get it fixed this time, but, they basically said, hey, you're throwing bad money after it, so, we're not guaranteeing we can fix it the next time, so. That's the good news, is we got a little bit more life out of it, but we got time to plan for it.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's the unit that we had replaced since I've been on the court once before, and they got struck by lightning, and it's been haywire ever since then.
Correct, sir.
We really should Have that replaced under insurance when that happened.
They replaced it and fixed it under the insurance. It's just never been right since, and ever since then, it's an obsolete unit. They no longer make that unit, so getting parts is hunting and finding parts. They just don't make it for that system any longer.
So the lateral hire that you had, if we went ahead and made that, would that save overtime?
It saves a little bit, yes, sir.
Would it offset the hire?
It offsets some of the hire. It doesn't offset everything, yes, sir. The problem we're gonna have, sir, I'll stand up and address it, I apologize. So, you know, like I said, it costs about $16,000 to train the new man. We are short 5 men right now with the potential of losing 4 more this year due to retirement. So by October, somewhere around October, we could be down 9 personnel if we don't get these people in the pipeline. So if we train them for 13 to 14 weeks, you still have to have unscheduled overtime to fill those positions that we're down. We're going to get so low that we're not able to fill those positions right now. We're working short staff, basically, is where we're at. So
Sounds like we've cut service.
we are on the brink of cutting service if we don't do something to remedy the problem, yes, sir. The only truck we have left right now is Station 3 is the only one that's staffed with 3 personnel. Every other truck is 2 personnel only. So that's where we're at right now. And if we don't, I know the maintenance, I'm not trying to sound no alarming. I don't know what other departments are doing right now, but we feel the crunch. If we don't continue to put money into these trucks and fix those trucks, personnel won't be an issue because we won't be able to fix the trucks. So, you know, sometimes I understand the judge's perspective. If the money's not there, it's not there. But if we park the truck, we're going to lose service. If we don't staff the truck, we're going to lose service to our community. So that's the current situation. You know, the chief and I, we have done everything we can think of to keep these trucks on the road, keep the personnel working. It's just to the point where we're uncomfortable with the situation, and we want the fiscal court to know that we're going to be over budget by the end of the year. The long answer, short answer, we could dive into that all night, but we either have to make a commitment to continue the service to our citizens or cut those services.
So what do you need as far as fixing the truck? If we approve those POs to fix?
The transfer, I'm pretty sure is that transfer.
So, you know, right now we are in the backup truck right now. So we need to fix the airbags on one of the frontline trucks. We've already done the transfer to pay for the equipment, but we've not, you know, transferred any money for the labor on that truck. So, you know, we're basically to the point where if it's $10, either the men buy it out of their pocket or it goes undone. That's the point where we're at right now in our budget. So we're just trying to look for some guidance. Do we continue with the services that we're doing? If so, we need to hire these gentlemen and get them in the pipeline as quickly as possible before those other people retire in July. Because that's when that's the big month for retirement is July. So right now, if we hired them today, we begin training on April 21st. They're going to graduate June 27th.
Are there any other, the other counties got to be in the same shape that we are. Are there any counties that we can piggyback these trainees off of so that we're not paying $16,000 a piece to train?
We've tried that. You're going to pay whoever you go. The only place that was free to train was the Fire Academy in Greenville, Kentucky. We sent 2 recruits there for 14 weeks, Chief. 14 weeks we sent them. When we got them back, we did an additional 7 weeks because we put them in the truck. They couldn't pump the truck. They couldn't operate the truck. So it was almost, sure it was free, but we didn't get anything out of that. So we decided that we can't send any more to the academy, the state fire school. So, you know, there's nowhere else to train your personnel unless we do it ourselves.
The money we transferred today buys parts, is that what I'm hearing? But it does not pay for the labor to repair the trucks and put them back out on the road.
I couldn't speak to it because I couldn't tell you what we actually transferred. I don't see the transfer.
We had, at the time, we had to fix either the airbags on one truck or the brakes on another truck in order to have all 3 fire departments fully staffed.
All 3
So
stations.
the truck that got picked was the brakes.
Because
And that was...
it was repaired the fastest is why.
It was the fastest repair that we could do, but it was 7, wherever that around here. I don't remember what the labor was. but it was
We haven't
like-
got the bill, but it's probably close to $6,000-7,000. Big truck
Yeah.
brakes are expensive.
So the next one that needs repaired is the airbags. And what we just were doing was watching the money to make sure we had enough to pay.
We just transferred $18,000 into the equipment repair account, so I mean, if you got 7,000,
Well, I think part of that's...
Those were for previous repairs.
Yes,
done to
that's
that truck.
before the brakes.
Some of those repairs go back as far as December.
There was a note about being February on one of those.
Was one of those tires,
Some of those it probably was tires. Sir.
On the interstate.
Yes.
And, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was under the impression, I might be mistaken, but I thought when you hired an individual, they signed an agreement to stay for 2 years.
They do.
Do they stay for 2 years, or do they train them and leave immediately?
They're-
I'm just trying to figure out
They-
the order of what's going on.
Absolutely, I'll explain it. So they sign an agreement to stay for 2 years. If they leave before that 2 years, they're required to pay $7,000 back to us in training.
Right.
Some of these places, Magistrate, they pay $21,000 more than us, so they laugh, they go, here's your check for $7,000, I'm getting ready to make $14,000 more immediately. So the problem you're seeing is we're turning out quality candidates, which is great, but the problem is other people recognize that we have quality candidates and they can pay them more money.
Who said that 7,000?
The fiscal court, we come up with how much it costs roughly, we need probably.
You say that 16,000.
Yeah, it's beyond, but I need fiscal court approval to up that, so I'll up the agreement, we've talked about changing it to $16,000.
I mean, we need to do something if we've got that, if they're more willing to pay the penalty than they are to fulfill their commitment, we've got something
At
around.
one point, we had found that if they signed the agreement for $16,000, then we were losing candidates. They didn't want to be on the hook for that much money. So it was that game that you play is, do you lower this and take a chance on them staying, or?
Well, maybe we could prorate it in. It's 16 if you leave this today, it's 10 if you leave here, it's 5
Correct.
if you leave here. Maybe there's a formula in there someplace.
And we do prorate it, so it's $7,000 if they leave in the
That's what
first
I'm
year,
saying.
and then we cut it in half if they leave within the
I'm
second.
talking about upping it to 16 to start with.
I'm okay with that,
And then
absolutely.
moving it down as the longer they stay.
I concur with that.
I agree with that.
But here's my, how many have paid the 7,000 since the start of this fiscal year?
That, two have only paid it back since the beginning of the fiscal year, or have planned to pay it back, yes. The rest of them were either cut loose or did not continue in the fire service. So it also says if they go to another department, then they're required to pay. If they go on to jobs at Lowe's or McDonald's, they're not required to pay that money back.
So did that 14,000 return to your budget?
No.
No, that's what I was getting ready to
No, it
say.
does
That
not return.
14,000, did you create a line item for that when it was paid?
It hasn't been paid yet. Those gentlemen have not paid it yet.
How long has that been?
It's been a couple weeks now. So we're gonna have to turn it in to the county attorney. They were waiting to pay their get their taxes back is what they told us. So we're gonna have to turn it
So
over.
once that money comes in, then what happens? It's unscheduled revenue.
Right.
And then that can initiate the previous budget amendment, there was 5,000, you can start adding those together, and there's another 14,000, so then you can add to the appropriations.
Chief, I got a question for you.
Sir.
Of like, let's say the last 5 recruiting classes, you have 20 candidates as an example, you can tell me how many it is. How many of that, what percentage of that leaves? So we can know ahead of time, because if we want to hire 7, we're going to need to probably hire 12.
I understand.
Instead of 7.
So our attrition rate right now is about 32, 33%,
Or
I
what we
believe.
call what we call rookies and early new hires, you got 30-35% turnover within very quickly.
The first year.
Why don't we do this as a suggestion, that you got 4 ready to tee up anytime now. We're all comfortable with the 16,000, we know that's the cost. Maybe we agree on that, take a vote tonight. So the policy's in place, so these guys want to sign on and take the position. They come in knowing that if they don't
Right.
if they don't complete their term of service, they're going to owe the county $16,000. And I guess if we want to come up with some kind of ratio or proration, and I don't have a problem with
Now,
that.
you could set that term as well as the finances too, you know.
And it's 2
Maybe
years
it's not
now.
2 years, maybe it needs to be 3 years or 4 years, I don't know. The gentleman that went to Frankfurt that just left, he signed a 5-year with them. Just something to look at.
Yeah, right.
Well, let's say, we could say if you leave in the first 2 years, you pay $10,000 back. Or you pay 16,000 back. If you leave between the second and third year anniversary, you pay $10,000.
I think it's something Chief needs to work on, bring back to us. I don't think we can do that here tonight.
Well, we can.
Well, they're not gonna sign the contract just
Well,
yet.
I understand.
So we can make, before the recruit class begins on day 1, we take them over and Ms. Turner notarizes it, so we make sure they sign the contract in front of someone.
So you can have that in place, so that way we put that in place, and then you'll bring an order to offer them a job, and at that point, you will tell them what the policy is, correct?
Yes, sir.
Let's have something on the next meeting.
We could, if we could, we could go ahead and hire them tonight and get them to sign the contract when they come in, because that's what we generally do
It takes a
anyway.
couple of weeks to get them on board anyway.
Yeah, so if I can submit the names right now, if it's okay with you, I can read them here and we can vote on them now. And I have the rates and everything, because we always put the rates in order anyway. Yes, no?
It's the judge's call, I mean, he has to offer them up.
Well, you definitely want to get the county attorney involved with this agreement.
Well, we'd have to have, well,
Yeah.
and I like, we need to have an order prepared too.
Yeah.
We can approve it, but we still need to have an order prepared to approve.
I concur. I agree.
Well, that's why we were gonna have it on the next meeting, so everything, you have everything in front of it.
I mean, I think you consensus, you can do what you need, talk to them or do whatever, Judge. I think we're all in agreement here that we're for hiring them.
The one gentleman that's a lateral, if we voted on it tonight, when would he start?
He'd need a 2-week notice.
Which would be, he would be talking about the next meeting.
Yes, sir.
But typically, you offer them a job anyway before you bring us an order.
Correct. Well, I don't do that.
Okay.
I'll bring you the order first, because I've heard you plenty of times.
They don't sign,
The truth is, the judge can appoint them in those positions, and then it'd be ratified at the next court meeting. I know that Magistrate doesn't always like that start date
Right,
prior to
right,
that,
right.
but legally, I mean, we fought this for several years now. He can make that appointment at any time, you don't need us, but it has to be ratified at the next meeting.
but in the past, the laterals have not signed the contract.
Right. Yeah, they don't have to train,
Because they've already been
Yeah, I'm not
trained.
worried about it. We're not worried about him.
Yeah, if the judge would offer that name, I would support that.
But he
do that
technically, he
anyway.
can go ahead and do that tomorrow, and we'll just ratify it at the next meeting.
Okay.
I mean, we've done that for road department custodians, that's happened for numerous employees.
And Chief, you know, you were concerned about when we raised that a lot of guys may not want to apply. So we're going to find out real quick if that's reality.
Correct. It's either or. I mean, we're still losing people to other departments, so I don't think it's gonna hurt to raise it up. In my opinion, it's not. It's just that we had it at one point at a higher rate, and guys wouldn't sign it. You put it in front of them, they say, oh, I'm not signing on for that. So we tried to take it down, and we got more people to sign, but at the same token, they'll go right out the door because they don't have that much skin in the game.
We just use inflation as an excuse.
You know,
It's everybody's.
Chief,
That's everybody.
let me ask you one other question about
Yes.
honest employees. We had talked about this in the meeting. We mentioned about people that, like, for instance, other family members, that would be really, really good, but because of the way we got things set up, we can't hire that, even though you wouldn't put one person over the other, they'd be on a different shift. Have we considered talking about that?
We have father and son working in the fire department.
Not full-time
Not
basis.
full- But we have a part-time and a full-time father.
But I
Correct.
think you said there was a few guys that were looking at going full-time if we pass that, is that correct?
That is correct. I think that we would have the opportunity to bring some of those people over. The nepotism policy would have to be talked about at in June, or when the fiscal court would vote on it. That would be an administrative change, so we put that in there, you know, but we haven't acted on it just because we don't know exactly how that would work out. I know recently the city's had a bout with nepotism, so, you know, we're kind of taking a look at that before we bring it, but that would be in June that we would bring that.
Thank you.
Are we gonna, so you're gonna,
First thing.
Roger that? Thank you, sir. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Chief.
So next item will be 13C, that is approval of the EOC closeout letter.
Motion to approve.
So motion, Magistrate, Finance, your second. I'll second for discussion.
I'm gonna, in that discussion in regards to the letter, we all, several months ago, starting back in December, you know, had this closeout to be reviewed by the county attorney. The county attorney has been trying to get the documents so he can give us an opinion. The letter may be the right way to go, it may not be the right way to go. But until we get clarification from the county attorney and he can get the documents, which he needs to review before he can give us a legal opinion, I don't think we should act on that. So with that, I'd make a motion that we table this until the county attorney gives the documents needed to be able to make an informed decision about what we're doing.
I second that.
Judge, we've got the previous deals, director and the current. I'd like to have some thought from them about, have they seen this letter and what's their thought about it?
Yes, they have.
I've seen the letter.
Magistrate Blanton, I've got a motion on the table. I don't even want to talk about it until our legal advice. This has been going on since December 2nd or December 22nd. And for some reason, the county attorney can't get the documents that he needs.
Well, I really don't see them.
You've
I've
seen
seen
the
them.
email. You've seen the email.
I've seen them, but I don't think this letter says anything except our intent.
I don't know what our intent is. We don't know what our intent is until we get legal advice on it.
But my understanding is all the letter does is say to the Kentucky Emergency Management, we are going to disposition the EOC building and the storage building and the tower there. That's all it says. And once that happens, then it just starts the process. And I believe at the end of the day today, I don't know, by 3 o'clock, I think every document that could be found was found and is in the hands of the county attorney. But I don't think approving this letter, all it's going to do is get the process started. It's every county that has been involved in CSEP has basically done the same thing. And that's why I included the template. That's a template that this letter was written off of. It's pretty much a standard. And all it's for is to tell them that we are going to disposition that building, and then that'll start the process. So would be ample time to discuss what we're going to do with it, who's gonna move into the center? But all this does is start the process. Any further discussion? So the motion before you is to, on 13C, is to table the EOC closeout letter.
Until the attorney looks at it.
Until the county attorney gets the documents that he needs to render us an opinion.
Okay, upon review of the okay.
Which is what we've asked for all the time.
Not upon, my motion is not upon the review of the letter from the county attorney. It's the county attorney receives the documents that he's been trying to get since December.
Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Nay.
And back, that's your back votes now. So, 4-2, the motion carries. Okay. Next item is GRC project generation support letter.
Graduation.
Graduation support letter.
We've traditionally done $500 out of the community funds. I remember we did it last year. I know we've done it one or
I don't think we did it last year.
We did it last year.
And I think it was fun.
Mary, do you recollect, was it 500? Did we do that last year? Or was
We
it the
didn't
year
do it
before?
last year.
Was it the year before last?
Year before.
Did they not submit for it last year?
I don't think so.
And we've got the funds available, if I remember correctly, correct? I'll make a motion that we use $500 for the community fund for project graduation.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, any discussion?
Again, this is probably an allowable expenditure for the community fund, but again, I would urge Ms. Jones and any other entity who may have a project coming up to submit in a timely manner when the application process is open, so that we don't have a sporadic surge of people saying, oh, by the way, this just came up. I don't think it happens that all of a sudden. So I would encourage them with that, when we submit that check to them with a note to submit in a timely manner when the application process is open, along with all the other entities.
Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item 14 is notes in the minutes. The Winchester Clark County Transit monthly report in February and the Clark County Finance Director's monthly report. Item 15A is order approving the hiring of Jace Burke as a full-time road maintenance worker for the Clark County Road Department. You should have that order.
Motion approved.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second, that's Stanley, any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, item B, 15B will be withdrawn, so there'll be no action taken on that. 15C is approval of an order of the court approving the hiring of William Hopper as a full-time heavy equipment operator for the Clark County Road Department.
Motion approved. Second.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item 15D is discussion and approval of the first reading of an ordinance amending the zoning districts and sign regulations concerning medical cannabis.
I'd offer up a motion to approve those regulations. I'm sure there'll be discussion, but I'd sent out today just 4 minor changes to the text amendment. The text amendment, the way that it reads is that it only applies within inside the city limits, and I think that it also ought to apply to the county as well. So I sent the changes to you, highlighted them as suggestions. I was just trying to expedite it so y'all had time to review them. But I would offer the motion that we approve those with those 400 changes.
I'll second that.
Did you see those changes, Rob?
I did not, but I mean,
Sounds okay.
I haven't seen all the changes, I just know the change to make it in the city limits and county limits as well, which I think would be fine. I think it's whenever we can have the same in city and county, that's the best way to handle things.
And just, I did try to call a couple times, Robert, to speak to you so you could have a heads up in regards to them. But the only thing is that in A1, you know, it says conditional uses permitted in agricultural district A1 within the city limits. Because I know there is some A1 inside the city limits. Is adding another line, A1 outside of the city limits is allowed without a conditional use.
Sounds good.
So that way that makes, and then the other ones is just where it says within the city only is added and county.
Yeah.
And then at the general sign requirements that we just, outside the city limits, is that they follow the state regulations. Those are the only three changes there.
Yeah, I think that's at the heart of what the planning commission was trying to approve with their motion, so we can, I can support that.
Any further discussion on that?
Was that a motion?
Yeah, offered his motion.
Did you have a second? Okay, I have just a few points. And, you know, the state statute regulates medical cannabis. It says medical over and over and over again. We have a pharmaceutical company in the industrial park. We have drugstores on every corner. You can pull up to get your opioids if you've got a prescription. We didn't try to regulate those. You know, it says medical. It doesn't say recreational marijuana. It doesn't say weed. To me, this is just putting a roadblock up for someone who wants to open up a business. And I'm for free business, for less regulation. You know, if it said recreational weed, that may be a different story. But these people are regulated highly by the state. The people who have the prescription are highly regulated. We have a pharmaceutical company already in the industrial park. We don't regulate that. We've got drugstores on every corner. We don't regulate that. So to me, this is just an impediment to a business wanting to come to Winchester to meet these requirements. You know, put it in there as a permitted use and let it go, just like everything else. If you want to spell it out, with drugstores and all the others, that's fine with me. But I think this is just a method that someone wants to, you know, they don't like it near a school or a park. Well, I mean, you can go to the drugstore and get your opioids. You can, I mean, to me, it's trying to regulate medical cannabis as if it was marijuana for recreational use, and I disagree with it. For that reason.
Further discussion on that?
You know, I've been in Colorado a lot skiing, and it all started out as medical marijuana there, but now it's moved to recreational and even psilocybin mushrooms. So one of the concerns I would have is that, yes, there may not be any regulations at this time near school, but then when it does shift, then we don't have regulations.
Well, the state would have to approve those changes first.
I understand that.
Now, we can always go back and do it when that changes, but at this point in time, I don't see the need for it. It's an impediment to business.
I understand. We'll take it. That's just my viewpoint, that inevitably, when you open Pandora's box, it's coming.
Well, I think I would tend to agree with Magistrate Wayne that it is medical, it's highly regulated. So,
I think it is highly regulated, and the facts are is that if you don't even have a permit from the state, I don't even think you can do any of the cultivating or any sales anyway. There's no permits for Clark County as far as dispensing from the information that I've received.
But again, I just think free trade, free business, make it as easy as you can to have someone, you know, they may have gotten a cultivator's license, and they may have had a site picked out, they didn't work out, so now they might want to go to the industrial, which is fine. I've got no problem with that. But why do it? I was in it.
Well, I'm just trying to see, I want to understand where you're coming from as far as how do you feel that it restricts, you know, the business. You know, when they've got a condition, inside the city, I think it does restrict them where like on A1 property, kind of piece of A1 property, that it has to be a conditional
Well,
use. So you gotta go through a lot of that.
Well, you said,
But for the county, it just, under A1, outside of it, it's allowed, period, without it.
but all the other changes, you know, I can understand that, but I just, make it easy for business to come to Clark County and Winchester.
So you would be saying, speaking out, that you would disagree with, you would vote no on this?
There's some parts that are good, but some parts I disagree with, so, I mean, I can't pick and choose which parts I want to agree with and not agree with. It's all one document.
Right.
I can't have a line item veto.
I mean, I'll just say, just in case you want me to speak on some things or clarify some things, but I'll just be ready.
Does anyone have a question?
I wanted to ask Rob if you want, I have a question too. What, if you could just, and for the benefit of the public, because this is all, uncharted territory, at least in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Seen it out west for the last several years.
For sure.
California, Colorado, and several other states. But what gave rise to this with planting something?
So last year, like towards the beginning of last year, the word was out that the governor was going to allow medical cannabis, and then starting in 2025, there's going to be, I believe it was a lottery or a bid of some sort where, different regions will get so many sites that would be approved. And so since then, it's been a big part of the planning world for APA Kentucky, or even just, American Planning Association is what it stands for. And so just, urging us to prepare, make sure your ordinances are prepared for medical cannabis as it's going to be coming, and we need to make sure we find the right homes for it. And so that's what the attempt was. It was, towards the end of last year, actually I want to say during the summer, there was email sent to both the city and county about, hey, this is going to be, coming soon. We want to make sure we're prepping for it. From that email, the city was able to prepare an ordinance for the city limits, and that's where a lot of this language comes from. It's pretty much modeling that ordinance. They were given language from places like Kentucky League of Cities and other cities that have adopted similar regulations. There have been some that have been more regulated than what we proposed. And so we didn't want it to be a hardship, but we wanted to make sure that they were just opening up in the right districts.
So this is going to track pretty closely what City of Winchester has done.
It's, yeah, the code of ordinance that was, it's 17-2024. And so whenever we can handle the same or something similar, county, city, I think is a good idea. So I think, with the amendments that were made today, I think, we can all support that. That was one question, that if we were going to change that entity only, maybe strike it all out altogether. But then again, how would that affect the agriculture communities? Is this a crop that can be grown in the ag community without a conditional use? I think I've answered a few phone calls the last couple of weeks with that same concern. And so, I mean, if you wanted to discuss I'm sure there's some ag people in the audience that might want to answer that for you, but it's hard to say what the agriculture community would support and what they wouldn't support. But this would have to be grown as the state regulates it. It just can't be planted in the ground. It would be in like a greenhouse of sorts. And so there's a project in the industrial park that they'd like to move forward with, and that's what they would be doing, is cultivating in a greenhouse, processing in a greenhouse type setting, and repurposing a warehouse. So, but this has been in the works well before we knew of that project.
Thank you.
So if we vote to do this doesn't put any extra burdens on anyone, right?
No, I think if historically, the sites that would be used for, say, like your B3 and B4 zoning districts, those are your highway and your general business districts. Those are a lot of sites that are already being used for, of course, we can't say dispensaries for medical cannabis, but we see other sites that are similar. A lot of your pharmacies are there, a lot of your shops where you might buy different, if it were to one day go recreationally, we'd see a lot of like vape shops and other shops in our B3, B4 zoning districts. So permitting it in those sites, I think, just follow line with that trend. And so I wouldn't think that would put an extra burden or hardship on any of them.
Rob, just one question, and just for my knowledge. The current zoning says, it doesn't say that you can't do this. So why do we feel like we have to add that in there when, if it doesn't prohibit it, why do we even have to take this extra step? Could you just explain that rationale of thinking?
Yeah.
To me, it seems like it's not prohibited, that it would be allowed.
Well, it could, without it being mentioned at all in the zoning ordinance, because the zoning ordinance is what's going to regulate our land use. And with it being silent, one could take an interpretation that, oh, it's silent, so I guess I can do it. But one could also take the interpretation that it's silent, I can't do it. And so we want to make sure we spell it out so there's no question about it, that it's a permitted use in certain zoning districts, a conditional use in what, I guess in the city limits and agriculture would be conditional. I think it's a dangerous, I wouldn't want to be in a position where it's silent, because then we wouldn't really know without a legal interpretation, and some legal interpretations can be challenged. And so if we just spell it out, so there's no question or doubt, that would be the best way moving forward for our community.
Thank you.
Just to mention, Magistrate Bland's point, our zoning ordinance does permit pharmaceutical manufacturing or processing. It says word for word that processing of pharmaceutical and also food products are permitted in our industrial zoning district. So we just want to add that language that also the processing or cultivating of medical marijuana or medical cannabis is also permitted in our industrial zoning district.
But with restrictions.
Those restrictions came from,
We don't restrict.
Right, but how many schools are going to be next door to the industrial park?
That's just.
We have all that out.
And how many daycares are going to be, so at the end of the day, I didn't write those restrictions. Those restrictions were recommended from other municipalities and attorneys, and just how they feel it's best.
So why open it up to A1? That is my big question. I mean, you're talking about business, industrial, you're describing everything but an agricultural purpose, but you're opening it up into the A1.
So if you want to turn to the definitions, cannabis cultivator is defined as a means and entity licensed by the state of Kentucky pursuant to Kentucky Revised Statutes 915 KAR 130 to plant, grow, cultivate, raise, harvest, trim, store, test, package, label, transfer, transport, sell medical cannabis seed, seedlings, medical plant, medicinal cannabis and medicinal cannabis product, or other licensed cannabis business in the state. So you can make the case or argument that another crop, you can do those same uses. Like if you're going to plant or grow any other crop in the agriculture community, you can sell the seed, you can plant and grow it, you can package it, and so originally it was going to be looked at as a conditional use. I think it makes sense in the city limits, but outside the city limits, agriculture community may want to do as a permitted use, and so I think there's a case there. If you want to hear from more agriculture people in our community, I think that's fair too.
Mr. Pasley, I would just say, think about Rickard Siege and what happened out there with the transfer to him. I mean, I would think that would be along those lines. But again, my hope, and I got no problem, my whole problem is with the additional restrictions that's placed on it. Put it in there as permitted use and forget the restrictions.
And the restriction is just within 1,000 foot of an elementary or in the secondary
Park,
or private school or park.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's an inhibitor for business and free enterprise.
Well, what Magistrate Bland just brought up, the business that occupied Rickard Seed used the agricultural exemption in our tax law to come underneath the tax laws in our county, right? Yeah.
All I know about that is that the Rickard Seed, because the infrastructure was there, they were considered, that building is grandfathered, the use is grandfathered, and they were able to open up as it was similar to the processing of seed and other materials, and so they didn't have to go through a conditional use in order to do that.
I see where Magistrate Pasley's going with that is there's an exemption under our net profit and payroll tax in regards to agriculture. But it's more to the sale of cattle, I think it speaks to this, but I think the state definition of this is medical.
It's more broad.
It's more broad, which I think would exempt, or would not, they would not qualify under that exemption from that. And I think, because obviously, more likely, it's going to be a large operation if these things do take place. Is that your concern, Magistrate Basil?
That is my concern. I don't feel like that the citizens of Clark County should be taxed to support the infrastructure that it takes to support a multi-million-dollar business to locate here and drive their stake in the ground as A1 and then not pay taxes in our county.
You're talking about property taxes.
Well, net profit,
Well, property taxes, well, in addition to what Daniel just said, you're talking.
Yes, yeah. So, the way, I think that we can have the county, well, I think we can have the county attorney review that, just to make sure that there doesn't need to be a change to our license fee ordinance to where we add that verbiage in there. And I think we can have him review that before, because this will require a reading from us, and then go to the city for a reading, and then come back to us. We'll have several weeks between the readings.
Yeah, and it's potentially, it could be on the city's agenda this coming Tuesday. I was talking earlier about maybe having it on the agenda, but we will have plenty of time between the first and second readings. So,
I feel comfortable going moving forward with the first reading, and then we can get those definitive answers on Magistrate Basil's concern, because I can understand them.
Yeah, I'll support it as long as we get clarification. I don't want the tax burden to fall on the backs of our constituents.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Any further discussion? So it is before you is 15D, approval of the first reading of an ordinance amending the zoning districts and sign regulations concerning medical cannabis. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
That was still what goes forward in this, correct?
Next item is item 15E, approve an order of the Clark County Fiscal Court, discussion approval of the Animal Shelter Management Program contract. And you should have a copy of that, and I think you've all received the email explaining.
Is your recommendation, Judge, to proceed?
I think we don't have much of a choice right now. I think that I would be for going forward with this. The program that she's already been using since 2016, it had been utilized by the county for free. And now the company is willing to charge $3,600 a year. So it's a one-year contract.
And we got them to break it down into 4 payments, so we don't have to pay all that up front.
So I would say at this point, if we approve it and they give us a year to finalize something.
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you all.
Next item is 16A, and these are information and board memo for March the 10th and Heritage Commission minutes, excuse me, for February the 27th. Next item, and there will be no closed session here, that will be removed. 18D. So the next item on the agenda will be magistrate comments. Magistrate.
Oh, gee. I got several things I'd like to talk about. I think Daniel might have answered one of them. I think you said Benny Stiles will be here the first meeting in April.
That's correct. And Judge, I forwarded you the email to make sure he was on the agenda, correct?
Yes. So he's on April 9th. April 9th. Speaking of April 9th, I think on April 8th, I think it is, that Heritage Commission will have a program on Lower Harrods Creek, so if you all would like an update on Lower Harrods Creek, Karen will be there with an update. I think it's 6 o'clock, I think, if you want to attend it at Holyrood. March will finish up our first quarter. Do we have any updates at all on our 911 fees from water companies? Is there any?
They are, I think they're getting ready to start coming in. I've not heard, I've had a couple phone calls, who do we mail it to, that type of thing, so I would say within the next 10 days, there should be some checks coming in.
Did we make any progress on the phone answering system service for the Clark County Road Department, so we don't have to hire a person to sit up there and answer the phone?
No, as of right now, we still have someone there answering the phones.
Well, if we could cut that cost and have those phones transferred to wherever they need to be, given our current budget situation and cash flow, I would encourage someone to investigate that as soon as possible so that we can proceed to save some funds on that particular line item.
Keep them in the road department.
I understand it, but still.
All right, sorry.
We hired a bunch tonight, and several months ago I asked for a list of county positions by description, and if we could do that in June when we look at the administrative code and we have our budget, I would like to include that list of all approved positions by department when we do that, so when we promote or hire or transfer, that we make sure that we're complying with what our budget is and what we have approved, because I don't think we have ever approved a list of positions by title and pay. So that we had a very lengthy code at one time, and one judges threw that out the window. We don't have that, so if we could get that in the works so we can approve that when we do our administrative code and our budget in June. How about home incarceration program? Are we making any progress on that?
Well, the good thing about it is the number of inmates has dropped drastically, down to, I believe, they used to have about 120 to 140 or something. I think now it's down to around 70. So I guess what I need to get done, I guess, is and I don't completely understand this, we've never created a home incarceration department. So I guess it's my understanding that I need to create a department, and then we need to appoint.
I think we got an email on that over a month ago, and I mean, we need to do away with it, make it formal, hire a director. I mean, just sitting here stewing isn't working. I mean, it doesn't work for me. It shouldn't work for anybody else, especially since someone said it wasn't done originally the correct way. And talking with the previous Judge Branham, he seemed to think that it was. So there's some confusion there over what was done and what wasn't done. I don't know, but as long as we can get that resolved, I personally would appreciate that. How about our road foreman? We making any progress on that?
Not yet.
Not yet. No end in sight then. Do we know how much our community fund check is going to be this year? We usually get a letter in February to tell us how much it's going to be, and we might have a question.
14, maybe 15.
Do we know when we will get that check? Have we requested it yet?
I think we got the email already.
We haven't got the check.
Mary, I think, has it.
We have already gotten the check. The check is in the bank. It was for $115,897.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. How about, previous meeting, I asked about investing our opioid money so we could at least earn some interest on that instead of just sitting in the bank account doing nothing, having anybody look into that for me.
No, sir.
Well, we're losing money if that money's not invested, even though interest rates isn't as high as it once was. Again, I would appreciate it personally if someone would look at the investing. I know other counties have done that. See no reason why we can't. If we're in a cash flow, that's cash we're not getting. It's cash we're not getting. I know there was an EMS committee meeting the other week. Can anybody update me on that?
Judge?
Go ahead.
Well, we did meet with the city. As you all know, Magistrate Pasley's on that committee, Judge, myself, and I think there was a initial sort of misunderstanding about how they were going to calculate what we owe them and what they owe us. You know, we also delved into the 911 overpayments, which, as you all know, came to our attention a few months ago. We'd overpaid at least for 2024 and 2023. We could go back, the city had gone back 2 years, had gone back even further. It was to the tune of about $134,000 change, the exact figure. It also came to our attention initially to Mary, and then of course she conveyed it to us. The city basically confirmed that billing had been done incorrectly for some time. So as it goes back beyond 2023, apparently there's been no analysis about that. Then of course we also discussed the fact that we owe the city a considerable amount, not just our quarterly payments, but as you all remember, they did some capital expenses, equipment, I think at about the $200,000 or so range, what it was.
That was our part.
It was our part, so capital.
$500,000.
Yeah, $500,000. So basically what they were also holding a revenue sharing check, which they turned over to the judge at the mayor's direction. So that was about $130,000, I think, wasn't it? $120,000. So we got that put to bed. I think the informal agreement, well, we actually did take a vote on the call, was that basically they were going to give us until end of this fiscal year, June 30th, to pay the balance. Because right now, we owe them more than they owe us.
Significant amount?
Do you remember what it came out, broke out to, Mary?
177.
177.
It was right around that, yeah.
177. So David had agreed to, mayor and the city members graciously, I will say, agreed to let us have until the end of this fiscal year. They didn't want to carry it into the next fiscal year, and I don't want it. We owe it, we need to pay it. So informally, we did set a date. Our next committee meeting, I think, is going to be April 30th at 5 o'clock, which will be in the city commission chambers. We rotated, as you all may remember. We had the first one here the other night. The next one will be in city commission. And I think we all committed to trying to have those meetings at least quarterly. You know, I pointed out, and others did too, that it had been almost 3 years to the date since that committee had been. It was the first time this term, in fact, we had a committee meeting. So we're going to have a presentation at the next meeting with the city fire chief, talk about the state of the EMS program, and update and educate us all as to how things have gone the last 3 years, and what the numbers look like, and so forth. And I think it was a productive meeting, and that we all saw that this thing went way longer without meeting than what it should have. You know, one of the committee members from the city brought up the possibility of renegotiating the agreement, which I think we didn't agree to because, you know, we spent a year and a half plus negotiating that.
That was a 61-39.
61-39 split. I didn't have any appetite for that. I don't think Magistrate Pasley did either. And it turned out that although this body voted on that agreement, City Commission voted on that agreement, it never got signed by the then mayor and the then judge, or at least if it did, there's no physical copy of it. We don't have a copy. The city doesn't have a copy of it. So I think we all agreed that that needed to be signed. You know, the bodies had voted on it, but the current judge, current mayor need to go on and sign it. So I think the city attorney was going to get that ready for signature. And we just had a lot of housekeeping to do, which we took care of. But I think as we have these quarterly meetings, we'll be able to be more educated and come back to the court with some answers. So it was a productive meeting for that reason.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Sure.
Red River Road Bridge, we have any updates on any agreements or any movement at all on that?
There's a point of contact with the Kentucky Transportation. I've reached out to him twice in emails, and to this date, no response.
Have they signed the contract? I mean, signed the contract that we received the funding that it turned over to?
You mean the railroad, has the railroad signed that?
Yes.
I don't know. I'm asking, I have no idea.
Yeah, we've not seen that either.
I think that,
If you don't say, I'll never get
I'm
signed.
not the smartest guy, but I don't know how the state's gonna spend money on it, but if we don't have that transferred over in our name.
Exactly. I mean,
So I think we need to stay on that, Judge.
status of the design, and I mean, there's a whole bunch of things still up in the air, and it's just gonna belabor to keep on getting worse and worse, and
We've never seen it.
we've never seen nothing. I mean, all we've ever done is talk about it.
But we found that funding, from the state
Yeah.
aspect of it, but the problem is the transfer of that
I
into the county's name.
I understand.
We agreed to their contract, so
I
we just
understand.
need to make sure it's executed.
Just a couple more quick things, and again, bear with me. I mean, timely receipt of these transfers and these bills, I mean, I appreciate it, the last minute to make them accurate, but for me personally, I like a little time to review them and look at them. And speaking of transfers, when we do transfers, I mean, I come from a different world, and when you run out of money, you run out of money, you don't just transfer it from one department to another. I personally would like to see transfers, if you're short in one area, transfer it from within that department, from another line item to that department, as opposed to going across all the departments, because it's just, to me, that just screws up the whole budget. And I know that may be impossible sometime, but again, we only have a limited supply of money, and just because it's in the budget don't mean you might not use it at some point in the future. So again, I know it's hard to do, but I would still like to see a more timely submission of those bills and transfers and that sort of thing. And finally, just on a personal note, Lenny Midden was a longtime employee of the health department. I guess I've known Lenny for 50 years, and we all mourn his loss and keep his family in our prayers. That's all I've got.
Just one or two things, Judge. I know we don't do this every year, but we have done it a number of years that I've been on the court, which is a budget workshop. I know most, or many counties have it, and city government, city commissions do it. I don't know if you've given any thought to that, but oftentimes we've done it, or sometimes we've done it as a special call meeting, sometimes we've done it in regular meeting, set aside a portion, go through the budget, make suggestions, comments, and I think we're probably in dire need of that. I mean, it seems like over the last year, we end up like in crisis mode about every 4 or 5 months, and there's pandemonium because, you get down to 120,000 in the account, 190,000 in general account, and how are we going to pay bills? And then there doesn't seem to be any projection, because, as you know, we have income coming in, insurance tax money, net profit tax money, and hopefully this 911 fee will give us some relief since we've transferred it to water bills, and I don't know what that's going to look like. Obviously, that goes to a dedicated program, but my point is this: I think that it's been a very difficult couple of years. We're probably on track. I haven't seen the most updated figures, but I mean, Mary, what are we up to with transfers to the jail so far?
With today's transfer, 1.68.
Almost at 1.7 million transfers to the jail. I mean, by the end of this fiscal year, we'll be probably in the neighborhood of 2 million. That's got to be some kind of a record. So, I mean, we got to get our hands around this thing. I think it would probably be worth dedicating some time to a budget workshop meeting and having that as the only thing on the agenda. And you want to have department heads come judge or other elected officials that are part of our budget, I'll leave that up to you how you want to, how you want to fashion the meeting format, but I think it would be helpful and probably critical at this point.
What time frame?
Well, I mean, normally, when we've done them before, it's been usually what, late March, early April, that time frame.
Yeah.
We have to, it was, his budget has to be presented to us by the 1st of May.
First week of May.
And so after that first week of May, when he presents it, then we usually have the, I can't remember, Magistrate, to be honest with you.
I can't remember either.
If we did it before that or after that.
I think we've done it both ways.
I don't remember.
I know there have been times where he's presented it, and we've taken a meeting and gone through line by line, and every member of the court that had an issue, they said, why don't we do this, why don't we do that? Or we could do it beforehand to help him get a budget fashioned.
Mary, when do we get the numbers from DLG? Is that, I know we get numbers from PDA on property tax estimates and everything on the 1st of April. When do we get our information from DLG, the numbers for the compensating rate and everything? You remember?
That's not till December.
Yeah, we do that after we do the budget.
Yeah,
That's
You're talking about for the rate, for the company, yeah, that's
We won't get that.
September, October.
Yeah,
we
yeah,
don't get that
August
till
at the
after.
earliest, maybe.
Yeah, for the budget is passed. I mean, the PDA numbers are helpful. It gives us at least.
Yeah, but I never get those. Those come to,
No, I had actually planned on it, some budget workshop. I think probably this year, of all the years we needed, desperately needed.
If you want to have Ms. Fran or somebody in your office kind of poll the court members about what date and time work, I'd be glad to share my calendar with
To
them.
me, I think it'd be helpful to have it beforehand,
I agree.
so that we know what the department heads want before we even start working on those numbers. Because I got the feeling that everybody's gonna have to cut their budget this year as opposed to seeking an increase. I don't see no way around of not having the department's budgets cut based on our historical data and our cash flow problems. I saw it.
And I agree.
I'd develop and move forward.
Mary, and just refresh, I know we've talked about this before, on the 911 fee money that will be coming in from the water utilities. Just to clarify for everybody, will those checks be coming directly to you initially?
well, it'll go to the judge's office and they come directly to me.
We haven't received anything yet.
So the quarter will end at the end of March, so we should start getting those in around, I would say, the middle of April.
You think maybe by our second meeting in April, you could give us a little update on it? Or even
Yep.
an email, but it would be nice to talk in public, so on the record, kind of talk about, public can get an update on it as well. I've had a couple questions about it, comments and so forth, but if you don't mind, or maybe at least by the first meeting in May, but since we're coming into budget time, it'd be nice to know what the revenue picture looks like. That's really all I had. I don't finish your plan. He's already asked the question about the road supervisor judge. So at this point, realistically, without getting any details, is there anybody on the horizon for the road supervisor? Do we expect that's going to set him for the time being?
Nobody actually wants the job. So if we get somebody, it's going to have to be from out of the road department.
Statute requires to have that position. I don't remember.
It doesn't require it,
It says if you have it, it has to be this.
Yeah.
But
My understanding, I haven't looked at it
I
a few
do.
years, but my understanding is that absent a road supervisor, then of course the judge executive can stand in that,
That's what I was thinking.
in those duties. So that's kind of what you're.
That's what I was thinking.
Mr. Miller.
With my voice, I'm going to keep it limited, but one of the things I wanted to give an update on was the opioid committee is going to be getting together on April 23rd. It was a little longer than what we expected. Going back to what Magistrate Davis said, if we do the budget workshop, I'd like to have definitely all the heads there. And if we work into a budget where they have to cut budget, they got to show how they're going to operate within that budget, instead of just being set at that budget and then them just going over and we have to keep transferring. So they're going to have to show us how they're going to operate within that budget.
And I think we're about to do another opioid check here sometime next month, I
I
believe.
think you're right.
I think we'll do another opioid check.
I think you're right. That's all I have.
Mr.
Last meeting, the East Clark County Water District director was here in regarding to that KICO paperwork. Has that, any movement happened there?
I think that's if I'm not mistaken, I think that it's actually on the county attorney's desk. I think he's still looking at it. Because he was going to, I guess, get it rectified, according to William Ballard.
That's not the way I understood it. Is that the way that was moved up for? I thought that the judge would work with William and KICO to get them to redraft the paper and transfer it directly.
Well, I think it started out that way. My understanding was the county attorney, I think towards the end there, he spoke up, and because there was a question, something, could he handle that or whatever, and I think he agreed to it.
Check with William and see.
He said that he could not redo all that paperwork, it would take hours for that.
That it was a mistake going part of KICO and left it between East Clark County and yourself.
I'll find out.
Then why don't you just call KICO and see what it's gonna take?
Last meeting, we also discussed the roads, and you were going to get with the Allen Company. Can you tell us where that got?
They are on schedule. They are getting a schedule set up right now. I don't have it with me, but to start the paving on the roads pretty soon. My understanding, they want to do the subdivisions before the county roads.
Okay.
So we'll get that fine tuned a little more.
Cycling back to Magistrate Blanton's comment on the community fund, we agreed at the beginning of our term on the court that there would be 3 members that would sit on that board for that committee for 2 years, and then we would switch. Just out of curiosity, because it is my first time, how will, just in August, will we make that transition? The other 3 of us receive those? How will that?
Yeah, I think that the 2-year terms.
We probably need to go ahead and judge and reappoint, or appoint the other 3 members to that, and then when the applications come in, then we'll set the whole timeline for that, and that's what we've always done.
Yeah, it's actually on the schedule for the next meeting. Go ahead, 'cause I forgot the exact date that those terms expired.
So that'll be me, you, and David Davidson.
It'd be good to get that on there. Generally takes us a while to do anything. And then the EMS, you brought up that we were going to get that contract signed. Have you saw that from the city? Have you signed that contract?
No, there's that. I don't believe it. It's not been signed.
Well, it would be signed by you and the mayor.
Yeah, I haven't seen it on this yet.
Did we follow up on that and make sure that that doesn't go under the bridge like it did before?
They want to reach out to you.
Well, I think that we've agreed that it's going to go before their commission again. They're going to vote to sign it, we're going to sign it, right?
That wasn't my understanding, because we
Is that what you
concurred that this body had already voted to approve it in 2021. And around the same, that next meeting or 2 of the city commission voted on it and approved it. But it never got signed, or there is no signed copy by the mayor and the judge. That normally happens.
It was approved but not signed.
Approved but not
So you don't need to
signed.
approve it again.
Don't need to approve
Just need to sign
it.
it.
But it also needs to be sent, upon signing, it needs to be sent to DLG, which it never happened.
If
And
you didn't have it, you couldn't send it.
if I'm not mistaken, the last email I saw from the city, that they were going to run it by their city commission again, because it was brought up that some of the commissioners on there had not voted for that. And that then I think that was the last email. And then we had to reconcur, and then the city was going to make sure that it gets sent to DLG for recording. I'll double check it and send it to you.
Well, I haven't seen that email, and assuming they said that, you know, the point that we made, and since Master Blaine asked about the EMS committee, you know, we spent a lot of time negotiating that 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it went over for a year and a half, came to an agreement, we passed it out of the committee that night, both bodies agreed to it, and we've been operating under that ratio for better part of 4 years now, well, over 4 years. So, you know, I hope that they want to vote on it, I can do what they want to do, but
Is William aware of this? Maybe we all have, would you make William aware of this, and if he needs to call Chris or someone to sort it out? I mean, it was approved, but never signed, so do we need to be approved again, or could we just sign it retroactively and, I
It's
mean,
an order of the, it's an order of the.
that's what I was thinking, yeah, it was an order, so we don't need to.
the previous court.
That's what I think, no, we shouldn't
We
need
agreed to
to.
that in that meeting as well. You can take it, you can go back and watch it. We agreed that.
I mean, it was agreement, he wasn't signed, so.
Yeah, they were gonna add, I watched the meeting and y'all did a fine job, by the way. And I appreciate the city. I thought both bodies worked very well together.
We did, yeah.
But what they said in the meeting was that Bill Dykeman was gonna add a paragraph explaining what had happened
That it didn't
and why
sign.
it contained Judge Yates and Mayor Joan Reed.
Kind of a preamble to the whole
Thing,
thing.
preamble,
Yeah.
and then send it to them.
Yeah, I think that was all would be necessary.
Well, and I will say, just speaking to what Magistrate Davis said, it was brought up about a renegotiation, and the initial, I think back in maybe 1990, was a 75-25, and it got higher and then got lower. But I think in all fairness to the two parties, we should probably take a look at the amount of calls that ran within the city and the county. And if we're going to look at a true share between the partners, I think we look at the share calls. And I think that revisit, might be something that we look at. That's just my thoughts. But I hate that another meeting's going by us and we don't have that contract signed, we're not turning that into the LG. That's unfortunate for the county that this is just remaining unsolved. And then cycling back to the money. Mary, if memory serves me correctly, we had somewhere about $120,000 left over after Compass had us move the money around, and we moved it over into the 95 account. Is that, and taking the road contracts that we have out, there was about $120,000. Is that correct?
I never got the number on the road contract. I can tell you what's in that ARPA, that reimbursement fund.
How much is it?
$692,818.
It won't be 120. I think those roads was in the $600,000.
Oh, 600, 615.
Can you have that number for us at the next meeting? That way, we need to get the city paid. I mean, Mayor Reed doing us a favor by basically giving us, the additional 110 days pay. And if we have some funds in there, I understand that we can move those over to our general fund now after Compass did their due diligence. And whatever's left in there, we need to make payment to the city. And I would like to thank them on behalf of the county. Mayor Reed was very gracious in the meeting, and the other members as well. And I'm thankful that they came together, they met with us, and at least we're moving forward, and we are having meetings. That's all I've got.
A couple things, Judge. Just popped into my head, and I'm just gonna say it, I don't want any response, but you talked about road super, nobody wanted the job. There was a man that had the job, that wanted the job, that did an excellent job. You could always revisit that and go back to them, because he did a heck of a job with the roads and did a heck of a job with the compost facility. So just something to entertain in regards to that. The other thing that I brought up, Magistrate Lane, that you mentioned about the phones, I know that Cornerstone did the phones when Judge Brandon was here. They purchased the phones. We can go to that, IP setting. It'll save us a lot of money on the phone bills. I know he came back in here, but it doesn't seem like there's anything that wants to go, but then that way you can transfer between all of them, you can set them up. It just makes it a lot easier. Employees don't have to use their cell phones because it goes to an app, so there is a possibility, and I know that.
Oh, we talked about that several meetings ago, that didn't happen.
That did come out. Sent you all some information yesterday in regards to the Kentucky Pride Fund composting grant application. We've applied for that many times. Me and Magistrate Pasley have been working with Ben Pasley, member of the Clark County Farm Bureau Board. They took the initiative to help out with the composting, to apply for this grant, to write the grant. It's a very important, not only just for the fiscal court, but also the ag community. So this is an application which has a deadline of April 1st. The matching funds will be completely offset by the wages that are paid, so we'll have no out-of-pocket costs. And I think we need to go ahead and authorize the judge to sign this document, so that way the application can be submitted, and we meet that deadline of
What was the total amount?
April 1st.
I know it's in the meeting, but I got it.
70,000 for the matching.
280,000?
It was
Just under 3.
280 and 70 for the.
200, let's see. I wrote it in the email.
Yeah, you
So the grant plus the match would be 350,000, so 280 is the actual grant request.
270, yeah.
And then 350,000 with our 77 match, and that goes to additional equipment and so forth.
When is this due?
It's got a deadline of Tuesday, April 1st, so it has to be submitted.
And how long have we known about this?
Well, I mean, the prior supervisor had always applied for these grants each year. And of course, with the transition, there wasn't one done this year. The county farm bureau board took an initiative because it's very important to their agricultural and farming. And actually, me and Ben, we were checking on some of the old paperwork on some old grants, and we stumbled across each other through the same person we were communicating with. As he was writing me an email, he said, well, I'm speaking to Ben in regards to the same thing, and then we ended up making contact, and he's been talking to Ernest, and so we all worked together to make the project. But I thank the Clark County Farm Bureau for their hard work and their dedication and stepping in when there was need, and I really appreciate that. And we need to do everything we can to make sure that the composting grant stays running and efficient, and get all the funding that we can that will affect the bottom dollar of the county. So I would make a motion authorizing the judge executive to sign this grant application immediately, and that way that it can be turned in. And Judge, I printed off a copy ready for your signature for that if it's approved.
No, second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Well, I'm obviously in favor of it. It's been a great program. It's a great asset to the county. It's really been a model for a lot of other communities that are considering this, from what I understand, and I appreciate you guys not letting it fall through the cracks as so many other things seem to happen from time to time. And again, and that brings me back to my main point, which is we've got to do a better job, Judge, of not getting to the point where something, the deadline's missed or it's about to be missed, and other people are having to scramble to pick up the slack, because, you two, obviously, you're members of the court, you went above and beyond. I appreciate you doing it, but we just can't keep going on like this. So what's causing all this? What's causing all this? We need to really seriously ask ourselves this, Judge. I mean, this is getting just almost chaotic. I'll leave it at that, but I support it. Appreciate you all taking the time and effort to do it.
I'd just like to follow up on that also. I know Magistrate Latin has Adam mentioned this before about having to pass things in magistrate comments and things not getting on the agenda. I'd just like to see a better job of that.
Just for clarification, Judge, Magistrate Davis, I didn't do any of the work on the grant. I mean, Clark County Farm Bureau Board, they took the initiative, they did all the legwork, and, you know, I'm just the vessel to be able to, just because we crossed paths, me and Ernest, and had several conversations with them, you know, just to make sure that we got this done before the deadline, so all the credit they deserve for the hard work, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. I also have a comprehensive kind of like overview and opportunities that I'll leave with the clerk for your review.
Also, can you speak to the 85,000 we got this year?
I've got that next.
Yes, so I can answer, but currently we have a outstanding report for Q2, which would have been like fourth quarter last year. And then soon we're going to have a Q3 report. Now we have time to submit this, and then we can then go back, you know, and apply for this grant as well. So the way that it works, we have to submit it now so that the state has time to award this come July, the new fiscal year. But between now and July 1st, we have to submit Q2, Q3, and then Q4 as far as the grant reporting requirements. And then there's also in the 24-25 grant of the 85,000, we have $3,500 outstanding that needs to be spent before then. And Ty Collins, who's the administrator, has agreed that we can spend it all on radio. And this is in the report. And of course, there's also the there's an Ag Development Fund project that's been approved of $7,200, I believe. And we have a contact with her, Alexis, from the KADF, but I mean, they need their building finished is what it is, and that's a potential reimbursement for the county. They've already spent some money building the concrete pad for their bathroom and their office, but that's going to be about $7,200. But in the new grant, I wrote an additional $35,000 that can be used towards that as well. So, because these guys currently don't even have a place to wash their hands.
And that brings up an interesting point. I believe that what we need to do is we need to separate somehow, so when this grant money comes in, that it does not go into the general fund. It has to be dedicated or protected somehow. Because we get into the situation where the grant money's come in, it goes into the general fund, there's not enough money.
Should be.
Should be. We've got the 95.
Got the 95 that needs to go right back to that.
Okay, it goes into that, but the cash is still in the general fund, no?
I don't think so.
It is, right?
Well, then it just needs to, if you're putting it into the general fund, it just needs to have a transfer order immediately moving it into the 9,500 account.
But all the appropriations are in the general fund. The appropriations are in the general fund.
Yeah, but then you move the cash over when the money is spent, so that way that grant
straight to that fund.
Just like we do our federal grants, Mary, when they come in, they're in a separate account, so that way that money doesn't get spent without having the correct documentation. It gets sucked up by other expenses. So, we have a motion.
Yeah, I want to thank our Bureau for working on this. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So the motion, was there a second?
Yeah. Pass the second.
Okay, so any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And we'll see you April the 10th.
And next, just to add to that, and where we crossed paths is we were checking on it. I know, Judge, I asked to find out, you know, have an update for us on where we stood on these grants at this meeting. But I haven't received any information on that, so we're reaching out to them. We do have that $3,500 that we need to spend on the radio, but the other issue is that we still got it, we still need to report the $14,588.68 of expenditures, so they don't come and recoup. And so we've already, like you said, we missed that first quarter.
That's just a matter of sending what we spent.
The second quarter.
Yeah.
So we need to get that reporting, Judge, done ASAP. And I will leave this documentation with you. I've got copies of it, but it's got all our grant applications. It's got all our invoices that we've already submitted, and the rest of it just needs to be completed, and I don't have the authority to do that, only you do, so I've got it all here for you, so you can do that. The second thing is the grant that we have, it was for $7,200 through the Kentucky Agricultural. The funds are available, the contracts were signed. This is a reimbursement grant, so we actually have to provide the invoices, and when we provide the invoices, then they will turn around and cut us a check. So $7,250 is available, and it was for that building, so we may already have invoices when we did those concrete pads. But regardless, they would need, it's a 50-50 match, and I just received this email late today, is they will need $14,500 worth of expenses because they reimburse 50%. So, I mean, we need to take advantage of that. Those funds were available.
Sure, there's POs for those numbers, just have to make them
We
regenerate.
need to use them. But Judge, I've got all their contact information. I put it here. I mean, it's something that.
What's the deadline on submitting that? Does it have a deadline?
They didn't have a deadline on that.
Soon
They
as
said
possible.
they hadn't talked to it, well, they hadn't communicated with anybody since, December, and then they said they had to reach out and contacted anybody, after that point, so, that's where we are on that. So, Judge, if we can definitely have some type of update that those reports are done at the next meeting, I'll provide you all this information, so that way we're not in jeopardy of, number one, losing this money or having to pay that back. Let's see. That's all I've got, Judge, so.
Next item on the agenda is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn, second.
Have a motion second, any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Maybe next year.